Hi, I'm Chris Rankin, Percy Weasley from Harry Potter, and you are listening to Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds. They're tall and they're nerdy.
The title for tonight's podcast is Heroâ.
Just another Tuesday.
We are taking over.
Happy Tuesday, podcast.
Let's fucking do this thing.
This place about to blow.
Come on, Slavinsky!
The Panels on Pages.com podcast network is here to cover all of your pop culture needs.
2 words, nerd boner.
From comics to television to movies to wrestling,
Fuck wrestling.
your favorite PCN hosts will keep you entertained all week long.
Boobs, boobs, boobs. Peen, peen, peen.
Who put me in charge?
He's Gandalf!
Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, look for the Pop Stars on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure to join the forums and become a member of the population.
Only a foolhardy adventurer would embark upon such a perilous quest without first finding out as much as possible about the mountain and its treasures. Before your arrival at the foot of Firetop Mountain, you spent several days with the townsfolk of a local village some 2 days' journey from the base. Being a likable sort of person, you found it easy to get on with the local peasants. Although they told many stories about the mysterious Warlock sanctuary, you could not feel sure that all, or indeed any, of these were based on fact. The villagers had seen many adventurers pass through on their way to the mountain, but very few ever returned. The journey ahead was extremely dangerous, that you knew for certain. Of those who returned to the village, none contemplated going back to Firetop Mountain. There seemed to be some truth in the rumor that the Warlock's treasure was stored in a magnificent chest with 2 locks, and the keys to these locks were guarded by various creatures within the dungeons. The Warlock himself was a sorcerer of great power. Some described him as old, others as young. Some said his power came from an enchanted deck of cards, others from the silky black gloves that he wore. The entrance to the mountain was guarded by a pack of warty-faced goblins, stupid creatures fond of their food and drink. Towards the inner chambers, the creatures became more fearsome. To reach the inner chambers, you would have to cross a river. The ferry service was regular, but the ferryman enjoyed a good barter, so you should save a gold piece for the trip. The locals also encouraged you to keep a good map of your wanderings, for without a map, you would end up hopelessly lost within the mountain. When it finally came to your day of leaving, the whole village turned out to wish you a safe journey. Tears came to the eyes of many of the women, young and old alike. You couldn't help wondering whether they were tears of sorrow shed by eyes which would never see you alive again. Now, turn over.
And welcome to this special edition of the Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds that I like to call, for reasons that should become apparent, Going Solo. Yes, it's me, I'm Paul Griggs, resident third nerd, and I am on my own. I'm going to take you back to August 1982. An actor was in the White House, Come On Eileen was top of the pops, John Carpenter's The Thing was in cinemas, and 2000 AD had reached Prog 278 and cost 18 pence in Earth money. On British TV, you could catch the Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie The Karate Killers on BBC One. If you liked your entertainment in a more non-linear fashion, then you could explore Middle-earth in a text-adventure adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, where Thorin would often sit around singing about gold, while role-playing gamers could play at Chicago Monsters or science fiction heroes in TSR's Gangbusters and Star Frontiers. In the UK, Puffin Books launched The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the first of a series of adventure game novels developed by Games Workshop founders Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone. Fighting fantasy mixed storytelling with a simple dice-based gaming mechanic, allowing the reader to venture into worlds of fantasy, science fiction, horror, and post-apocalyptic adventure where, as the cover blurb would often say, "You are the hero." A whole generation would never be able to look at a pair of six-sided dice and a pencil with an eraser on the end in quite the same way. Fighting fantasy flourished, selling millions of copies worldwide and spinning out into more traditional fantasy novels, board games, computer games, comic books, magazines, and multiplayer RPGs. Now, as it reaches its 35th year, Fighting Fantasy is being published again by Scholastic, and alongside reprints of 5 classic titles, they've launched the first new adventure in 5 years, The Port of Peril, written by Ian Livingstone. Alongside this, a new audio drama was launched at Fighting Fantasy Fest 2, The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, The Hero's Quest, which takes you into the fantasy world of Titan in a way never before imagined.
No, boy! You are the Warlock.
The Wood Elf is fast with her bow. Come then, fire your arrow and see what good it does you.
No. You are an illusion. A projection. If this is a trap, it is not yet sprung. In the name of the goddess! What is that?
All the dead and lifeless things of this world obey my command. Their bodies may have perished, but their decaying corpses and tortured souls can still serve my will.
And now, by the magic of the Warlock Zagor, I'm joined by the team behind The Hero's Quest.
Let's go round the table, introduce yourselves, tell us who you are and what your role is.
Okay, I'll start. My name's Richard Fox. I'm the director of Warlock of Firetop Mountain, Hero's Quest, Fighting Fantasy audio drama, and together with my wife, who's currently recording this, we did the music and sound design.
Hey!
Yeah, I'm David Smith. I wrote the adaptation of Warlock of Firetop Mountain, The Hero's Quest. So basically did script work and then obviously did a few other bits and pieces as well because we've all been mucking in and doing various other things.
That's true.
So
multitasking. And I'm John Saffron, and I've been sort of doing all the technical gubbins like websitey stuff and making sure we can actually buy it.
Hey! now, just for the people who are listening, for full disclosure, I've got to explain that John and I went to university. Well, I hesitate to say together. We went to university at the same time in Colchester some 20-odd years ago, and we knew the same people and drank in the same corner of the SU bar. And John was a prime instigator of hijacking me into London on my stag night.
Sounds like John. Sounds like you.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Because I was expecting everybody to come to us in Colchester, but no, I'm waiting at the railway station, and suddenly John shows up and said, yeah, we're getting on the train. And what he didn't tell me was we weren't buying any tickets, so thank God we didn't get stopped, is all I can say. From there, my recollections are slightly hazier. It definitely involved Sega World,
Yes.
and a vegetarian restaurant and a lot of wine. But that's about as much as I remember.
That's pretty good.
I didn't get home
John's
that night,
looking a
that's
little
for
bit
sure.
confused.
I don't know where I ended up, but I didn't manage to get home.
Well, I was staying with the best man, so I was in London overnight anyway. But yeah,
out for you.
I don't remember a great deal. It was a long time ago. Oh, bless. I didn't realise John was involved with this until I get a message on Facebook basically saying, John Saffron, would you to like his Facebook page, The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, The Hero's Quest? And I'm immediately going, what? Hang on, I've been following this on Gallifrey Base and various other places and on Facebook. How did I not know that? And hence, there's this massive sort of backwards and forwards of messages, which leads us to where we are today, having this chat. I think the first question realistically needs to be, how does somebody look at a series of quite popular at the time non-linear gaming novels and think, that'd make a really good audio drama?
Dave?
You'd have to be quite crazy, wouldn't you? Because it doesn't scream kind of linear audio drama straight off the bat. But I think what it comes down to is we loved the fighting fantasy books when we were kids, and therefore it's that nostalgia, that passion, those memories, and once you're kind of into that and into those memories, it's very easy to turn it into a story.
Yeah, it's. We did have a few discussions about whether or not this was achievable. How do you approach something that, as you say, Paul, that is non? It's not really a story. It's not a novel. It's a game.
No.
Yeah. So there were various different ideas thrown around, and in the end, for this one, we formed what effectively becomes a sort of prequel idea for them. And the other ones, if we go on to do a longer series, then they might involve different stories in the locations, and it might not necessarily be prequel or sequel. But this one is set before the game player plays Warlock. So we thought, well, we could bring people into the story by showing them the locations and the characters, and then hopefully at the end of it, they've been told a story, which Dave's done very well, and then they want to pick up the game book and play it. So that took a while to get to, though. Going through different ideas.
I think it's no different to for example, adapting any other role-playing game. So they've done movies of Dungeons and Dragons, not so well maybe, but they've done them. And there was recently, I'm going to say Warhammer, it's probably going to be Warcraft as well.
Yeah.
So you can take any game and use the characters, the worlds, the items, all of those things that you know and love.
It's about the feeling, the
and
atmosphere.
it's really about the world, not about the concept. So it's bringing that world to life. I think that's what it's really about.
Yeah, and then the feedback we're getting so far is that that people are enjoying it, and they're enjoying to seeing and hearing those characters from that world of Warlock. So hopefully we've got enough of the book and the game in there, but still creating a story that people can enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to it a couple of times now since it's come out, and I think you didn't set yourselves an easy task by any means, but I think you have successfully achieved what you're aiming to do. There's definitely that flavour and that nostalgia for the original book. There's definitely plenty in there that if, like all of us on this recording, read it to death back in the 80s, will recognise, and we're not, big things like Zagor himself, of course, but smaller things like the ferryman and the rats and just the description of Firetop Mountain itself and the entrance cave. I think that's fantastic artwork.
A lot of us have a huge nostalgia for it because, I mean, they're very visual books, for want of a better expression. They leave lasting images with you when you're a kid. So as a 6-year-old, I remember encountering the ferryman. I remember going on the quest, getting lost in the maze. Those are images that I think stayed with the audience, which is why you can still use them today and still revisit them. And I think a lot of people do remember those adventures, and particularly in those early books. So I think there's a lot of affection out there for those memories, for those encounters that they had, and this is just a way of bringing it back to life.
Yeah, we were very keen to make sure that as much of the book, and Dave, was very keen as the writer to make as much of the book and the game was in there, because as you say, this is appealing to a nostalgic fan market, and even though we're trying to tell a story, I still think we wanted to have as much of that in there to tell people this is Warlock. This is the game book you played, but you're not playing the game. You're just listening to the world.
Yeah, it'd be pointless if you just did a generic adventure and then just slapped the Warlock of Firetop Mountain or Fighting Fantasy on the front. You've got to be able to be recognisable as. Yeah. As the world of of Titan, the continent of Valancia, you've already seeded quite a bit of what certainly to me it's kind of obvious the directions you could potentially go, and you've obviously had these conversations already. What with mentioning the Moonstone Hills and a certain wizard who lives in a forest. He says, not wanting to give too many spoilers away for many people who listen to 50 Foot Nerds who probably haven't had a chance to listen to this yet, to Hero's Quest. You've obviously you've decided right. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick and choose the bits that we want to see in a story from the Maze of Zagor. So how do you then go about how did you pick who the characters were going to be?
Dave?
that our leads are not. We'll come to the excellent actors in a moment, but I'm still thinking just in terms of the writing.
I think there's. Because of the way the gameplay is designed in the book, there's certain characters that are pivotal to the story that gets told in the book. So, for example, Zagor, the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, is obviously quite important. So he's going to be there. But there's also the ferryman is somebody. He doesn't play a huge part in the book, but because of the way the book is set up, if you're going to go through it, you will encounter the ferryman. So it made sense for us to pull that character in, but then maybe not use some other characters who are off in little side rooms and things like that, because we know people remember the ferryman, whereas they won't necessarily remember the Maze Master.
Everybody has to cross the river, because that's basically the halfway point of the adventure.
Exactly.
You know, we swap writers from Steve to Ian or Ian to Steve. I can't remember who wrote the first half and who wrote the second half, but
I mean, you already as well. You've got to have at least one adventurer, because that's obviously the basis of the story. So there you've got your adventurer going into a mountain, not giving too much about the plot away, encountering a ferryman, ending up possibly in a confrontation with a warlock. So I mean, we've not got a huge cast because we're not on Hollywood budgets, but that's already beginning to map out the kind of the basic structure of the cast, just on those kind of those dynamics of remaining faithful to the original book. And beyond that, we try and pull in as many characters as we can that maybe don't need a lot of lines. So, you can have an army of skeletons without having too many voices involved, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
You think me a fool? Another double six. The dice are loaded. You are a cheat. No better than a pickpocket. Where I come from, you would spend a lifetime in a prison cell. Or lose a hand. Oh, come back here. Oh, out of the way. Where'd he go? Oh, you made me lose him.
Was he important?
No, not at all. I've just been stuck in this tavern too long, waiting for the snow to clear from the pass.
You're headed for Firetop Mountain.
Soon. Now the thaw has begun.
Human. Leather armor. A sword. You think yourself an adventurer. Is it the wealth of the Warlock's treasure you seek, or the glory of his kill?
I have a friend enslaved there. Gibberal, a dwarf. He was my companion on many adventures. I, Cassius Stormblade, go to free him. What of you, elf? You're a long way from the woods. What business do you have here?
I am here to slay the Warlock.
We should talk. More ale here.
So going on to you've decided, this is your adventure. Here is the script. And are you thinking already before you've got the script about who do we know who are really good, actors who can do a lot of different voices?
Yeah, kind of.
Or did that come once you'd locked down the script?
A little bit. I mean, as Dave said, Zagor's always going to be there. And I think we kind of fairly early on established that we were going to have two main heroic characters, probably female and male. And myself and Lauren, we do a lot of audio book work. We do a lot of work for Big Finish. So we're already in this neck of the woods already. So we kind of know the audio actors, the voiceover actors that do this work. And we know the ones, who can do this sort of thing fantastically well. Rachel, who plays Vale, we've done loads of work with her. She does a fantastic job. Tim, who's Trelaw, who's currently playing the Third Doctor for Big Finish as well. We knew that he could play that sort of boisterous Cassius character. And Toby, whose CV is as long as your arm and all kinds of CV and
Toby Longworth is a legend.
Yes, he is. He is a legend. And we did a lot of Warhammer stuff with him as well. So this is not exactly the same, but we're broadly talking along the same lines here. So when Zagor was talked about, I think that his name came up fairly quickly and again, you can get one or two of those actors to double up on slightly smaller roles because, as Dave says, the budgets are not Hollywood size. So you get good voiceover actors. They come in and do a good job. They do it efficiently, and it's a good result.
This one is the face of our enemy.
A portrait of the Warlock?
Exquisite use of light and shade. The eyes seem so
Cassius Stormblade, can you hear me?
Yes.
Then know that I, Zagor, offer you a choice. The elf
Will not turn me against her.
I know. I would never ask such a thing. Bring me the jewel she carries. It is nothing but a bauble, which I would add to my treasure chest. Fulfill this small request, and I shall allow you and your dwarven friend to go free. Or your corpse shall serve me in my army of the dead.
Cassius, hear my voice. You do not need to listen to him. You are the master of your own thoughts.
It's now, what, 2 weeks today since launch?
Yeah, we launched it
That's
at
correct.
the Fighting Fest 2 convention on the 1st, was it? September? 2nd of September. Yeah, so, yeah, about 10 days, actually, isn't it? 10, 11 days.
Seems
And,
no longer.
So, I mean, apart from, I gather, exhausting, how was that weekend, first of all? How was the convention?
That's fantastic. I mean, I'd never really spent any time, I don't think any of us really, around Fighting Fantasy fans. They're a great bunch, and they were very enthusiastic about the project, and we had a good turnout for our little chat where Toby Longworth came along as well and was entertaining people, regaling people with his stories as he does. It was a good day. We got the word out there. We sold a few copies. We met a lot of fans, and I think it was a big success as a launch, wasn't it?
I really enjoyed it, but it was absolutely knackering.
It was really tiring. Really tiring.
I mean, having done my share of Doctor Who conventions as a punter and as somebody who's interviewed people on stage and that, I know exactly what you're talking about. You can't. People who have never done it won't get quite how stressful it can be and how tiring, because even though you're potentially just sat behind a table for a long period of time, you're just still. It's like you're on guard the whole time, so you're still active even though you're passive. And
That adrenaline is really pumping the whole time.
Yay! That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, that and a lot of coffee.
That was a lot of coffee.
There was a lot of caffeine. A lot of caffeine.
A lot of caffeine and then a lot of alcohol in the evening. That's the trick.
I think everyone just fell asleep in the evening.
I had a really dirty burger from the SU. It was lovely.
Dirty burgers.
Oh.
Dirty burgers. Dirty burgers. That's just a perfect 50-foot nerds moment.
There's a high street shop coming to you in the near future. Dirty burgers.
We got one.
Dirty burgers.
Oh, is there? Oh, okay. Well, that proves me wrong, isn't it? I didn't know.
So how are sales going? Are we happy with where we are, given that it's only less than 2 weeks in at the moment?
Yeah, I think we're doing very well. I mean, this is a limited edition CD release. The download is obviously available permanently, but so we've got a sort of figure in mind, and we're ticking over very nicely, and we hope to build a production budget to do a box set of further titles as well. So I think so far we're ticking over quite well, aren't we? I think
we are.
We're doing quite well. I mean, we're not there yet. I think that's fair. We only just started, as you say. We only released sort of 10, 11 days ago, but the response has been quite good, and I think it's. So far, we're having a good laugh, and we're doing all right.
The fans are happy, and actually
Yes.
that's bizarrely important to me, because they're who it's for, and so the fact that it's all been positive feedback from them so far, that's been really important.
That would be a real nail in the coffin, wouldn't it? If everyone came around and said, "Well, we bought this, and it's nothing like Warlock. You guys don't know what you're doing," and what was Zagor being played by Dale Winton for? I have no idea. So fortunately, we've avoided that particular that problem. So it's going quite well, Paul. It's a really fantastic thing to be involved with, because, as Dave said, we're all fans, and so far the response has been quite good.
Well, you're saying, as you're saying, we're all fans here, and I want to go round the table, and I'll share mine as well. But what's everybody's earliest FF memories?
Mine was I used to go. My family took me camping. So what was I, about 8 or 9 or something? And I went into the bookshop on the campsite, tiny little thing, and there was just one of those little spinny carousel type.
That book rack, yeah.
And Forest of Doom was sitting at the top, and immediately I saw the cover as being something that I would be interested in, and picked it up in the shop. And I can still remember now just standing there for about 5-10 minutes and starting to play the game. And my mum saying, "Come on, we're going out. The car's ready." I said, "No, I've just come up with Goblin. I've just got, and that sort of thing." And at that point, I had to buy it, and that sort of started me off really. And from that point, there was no sort of looking back.
I think for me the title that really got me as a kid was House of Hell. I can remember being absolutely terrified by it, and actually I've been replaying it recently, and I'm
still
going through the same experiences as an adult, and it's still bloody terrifying. But yeah, I just remember running around a house and always ending up at the front door and getting scared to death again. Truly terrifying for a child. I'm not sure these books are entirely
funnily enough, my main memory of House of Hell is thinking it was such a good story that I ended up ripping it off wholesale for a creative writing assignment at junior school and just retelling the story.
Right. You would probably be sucked into detention with them asking worried questions about where do these images
yeah, they had no idea where I'd got this plot for, and they thought it was terribly morbid that I died at the end. So
that naked female sacrifice.
How are you telling the story if you're dead? But yeah. Good. John, God, your fighting fantasy memory.
Well, I certainly had a copy of the Warlock very early on. I certainly remember mapping out, or at least trying to map out, the maze in the middle of the bloody night because I was so frustrated that I couldn't get out of it.
I still am, actually. Yeah. It still annoys me.
Yeah,
I was thinking, when we started doing it and I reread it, and it still annoyed me. I'm still getting frustrated at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Actually, one of the things when writing the script, I essentially sat down and took the book apart and analysed it and went through absolutely every single entry and went through all the possible options. So every gas trap in the maze of Zagor, I've been teleported to another side of the maze. I've gone through secret doors. I've done it all, and it's really difficult, which is why everybody finds it really difficult. Yeah. You need to go such a specific route that it is not a surprise that everybody found it extraordinarily hard.
Because with all the FF books when I was a kid, I approached it with serious confidence. I mean, above and beyond what I could probably. So even now, I get to the Maze of Zagor and I think, how tough can this be? And I'm still there half an hour later, sort of spitting blood. So I just overconfident with it all.
Yeah, the main things I always remember about Warlock are, well, firstly, I did map it, and I still have all my fighting fantasy maps that I wrote. I drew.
That's impressive.
25, 30 years ago in the loft, and I found them when I was digging out my books about a year or so ago. And you're absolutely right. That fucking maze is an absolute bastard. I replayed Warlock about a year ago, and I was doing all right until I found the ghoul.
3 bodies. Eeny, meeny, miny. The second one, 275. As you move over towards the second body, you accidentally kick the third corpse on the floor, its eyes flick open, and it quickly sits up and slashes at you. If I'm lucky, it misses, and if I'm unlucky, I lose a stamina point. So I need to roll under 10, which I do. So this is going to be some kind of ghoul. Turn to 230. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, a ghoul. Oh, if I get wounded 4 times, then I'm going to be paralysed. Right, so it's a ghoul of skill 8. So he gets 8 plus 9 is 17. 17. I've been hit 4 times. I am paralysed. Turn to 64. The ghoul dances with glee around your body, lays it next to the others on the ground, turns you over and sinks its teeth into your rump. It is not often it gets fresh meat to feed on. Your adventure is over. Well, fuck.
And that was the end of my adventure.
Yeah.
Fuck the ghoul.
Yeah.
Bastard thing. But my earliest FF memory was it would have been. It was a birthday, I think. It was birthday or Christmas because my birthday is January 5th, and so birthday and Christmas are quite close together. I'm pretty sure it was a birthday though. So this would have been 1984, I want to say. Yeah, because we were still living down south. And the publication dates would fit. And a friend of the family gave me Starship Traveller. Of all the game books to start me on, the most impossible one going. But you know, it started something because I did go back and get the other ones. I remember. I think City of Thieves came out shortly after, and I remember there was a role-playing gaming shop, just outside Southend, on a main road, but just kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I remember going there and picking it out of a glass-fronted case to buy that. And I probably stuck with them until the early 40s.
Yeah. Wow. That's very respectable.
That is very, very good. I think that's longer than us, isn't it?
I think very much even amongst most of the fans now, the earlier books are much better known, and I think most people kind of maybe went to about 20. So to go to 40, that's an achievement. You should be proud of that.
Yeah. If you had to pick a favourite fighting fantasy game book, though, what would you go with?
That's really difficult.
I would say it's probably Death Trap Dungeon. That was the one I got very excited about when it came out, because I was right at the zenith of my excitement for FF, and it came out, and it just that sort of the game within. It's a bit like Warlock, I suppose, in a sense, but that game within an enclosed, and there's a sense of heroic achievement in coming through there. That really appealed to me. I still love it now.
Yeah,
it's an awesome cover as well, isn't it?
It's a brilliant cover. It's a brilliant cover. And I just like blue as well, so it was the blue one on my shelf, so that was impressive. House of Hell for you, isn't it, Dave? I think.
I don't know. I was just thinking about that. It's really tough. I guess probably is House of Hell. I was trying to rapidly choose another one, but just to give a different answer. But no, House of Hell's just it made the impact, and so that's what counts, really, isn't it? But yeah, otherwise, Death Trap Dungeon. I mean, that was the one, and yet,
fun one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. But you're
So
right. It's
enjoyable
also
to play.
by the time you're playing that, you've played Forest of Doom, you've played Citadel of Chaos. And it's just the perfect kind of one to follow it up with. It gets everything absolutely right.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. I would have to say that as well. I mean, it's the one I really remember best out of all of them.
That opening as well, the introduction when you're and all the crowds are cheering as you're going in with the other adventurers as well, and all that. So that really appealed to me. I'm thinking, I'm so cool. I'm going in. I'm going to, that sort of thing. That really built up my ego at sort of what was I probably about 9-10 years old. So I really that's fantastic. Walking to school, going, I've conquered the Death Trap Dungeon.
You were a lonely child.
I didn't get friends until It's just a fantastic book, and it was really successful at the time as well, and that made me feel I was part of something wider.
It is quite. In fact, they're all quite difficult, basically, aren't they? Because I died numerous times in Death Trap Dungeon as well. I remember failing at the books far more than I remember actually succeeding in them. In fact, I'm not sure I actually finished City of Thieves. Death Trap Dungeon it's a tough one.
City of Thieves, you've got to, if I remember rightly, there's certain positions you've got to get to, and if you haven't got the certain thing, you can't go to the next bit.
Yeah.
And you get right to the end, and then you've got to do the compound of the various things.
It's not about the winning. It's about the
about the taking
adventure.
part. It's about the taking part.
It's about the taking part. I was a child. That's what I learned.
It's not about the winning. It's about adapting them as audio dramas 30 years later.
Gotta ask the burning question, which is: did you play properly or did you cheat?
I did both. I never did a map. I was saying this earlier to the guys here. I never did a map, but I would cheat. Because invariably I was in a car journey or I was, in transit somewhere and I'd be playing them. I was just in bed. I couldn't be bothered with all the dice and the writing. So, yeah, I would keep my finger on page reference 25 as I went, surely everyone's done that at some point.
That's not cheating. That's just keeping your options open, isn't it? In case you change your mind.
And I'd like to go on record saying, for some reason, I've no idea why, when I tested my luck, I was always lucky. Always. I don't know how. I'm just lucky, I guess. It just happened.
This is the BBC television service.
Hi, this is Trev and Simon.
I'm Trev.
I'm Simon.
No, that's who I'm going around.
Anyway, hello, we're Trev and Simon.
And you're listening to
Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds
podcast.
Part story, part game, pure adventure. That's the declaration on the back cover of The Port of Peril by Ian Livingstone, the brand new fighting fantasy game book written for the 35th anniversary and now published by Scholastic. You are the hero and you find yourself dropped into the middle of the fantasy world of Alancia, where many of the fighting fantasy adventures have been set going all the way back to the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. A discarded treasure map sends you from the riverside town of Chalice into the Moonstone Hills, to the shadowy streets of Port Blacksand, the depths of Darkwood Forest, and beyond. So far, so 1983, and apart from moving the main rules section to the back of the book rather than the front, it's like putting on a comfortable pair of trainers and going for a metaphorical jog down memory lane, with only a pair of dice to protect you against all kinds of weird creatures and characters that you'll encounter. It had been a very, very long time since I'd played game books in earnest, so I was concerned that the initial excitement of reading a new adventure would wear off quickly, leading to boredom and disappointment. I was pleased to find that the book maintained my interest as I explored the streets of Chalice in preparation for the adventure and moved out into the countryside. The gaming mechanics seem to have a decent balance between decision-making, combat, and pure luck of the die roll, and given that it's unlikely that a player will win on their first attempt, I'm confident that it maintains plenty of replayability value. But if I enjoyed it as a long-term reader of fighting fantasy, how would it fare in the modern world of YouTube, Netflix and Xbox? The only way to find out is to turn it over to someone who's about the same age I was when I read my first game book.
Hi, my name's Joshua, also known as TARDIS Glitch, and I've been reading The Port of Peril by Ian Livingstone. When you first told me about fighting fantasy, I thought it wasn't going to be as fun as I thought it would be because I was reading. But when I read it, it actually came out quite fun. The sort of things I usually play, like WWE, Minecraft, those like things like Gary's Mod and that. In Fighting Fantasy, you play as a character, but with many options to do. So there's like somewhere where it says like, if you want to do this, turn to like page 51. Or if you don't want to do this, to go to the like 256, and I think that's really good how you have like two options to go separate ways and it changes the storyline up completely. You generate your character by rolling 1 dice for your skill and then adding 6, and then for your stamina you roll 2 dice and add 12, and for your luck you roll 1 dice and add 6 to it. And then it's the same for your opponent, except they don't have luck. You read what their skill and stamina is, write them down, and then you battle and you roll for your skill, add the numbers of the dice together and your skill together, and if it's a draw of your opponent's skill, nothing happens, neither of you lose 2 stamina. But if you get over it, your opponent loses 2 stamina, but if they get over it, you lose 2 stamina. And it's really whoever gets to 0 stamina first loses. It came out quite confusing at first, but when I actually seen it, it made more sense to me. You start in this market square as this person who lives on the streets, and you find this map that somebody dropped because they thought it wasn't real. So you pick it up, you take the map, take your sword, shield, and some food and leather armor with you, and then there's like people you can go and talk to. And what I did is, when I first played through it, I didn't talk to the first person, so then I left the market, came to this place where it split off into 3 lanes, and I went straight to, I can't remember, I think it was Silver something, and then there was this man who said he would give me a ride to the gates if I paid him 1 copper. So I did that. I got to the main gates, walked out, then there was this person on a horse charging at me. I was trying to ask him to stop, but he wouldn't, so I had to use my luck to see if I didn't get hit or not. And luckily enough, I didn't get hit. Then later, I was at the base of the mountain, and it said either to sleep in the plain grass itself or to build like a little hut or something, and then it said to light a fire or to leave it. So I thought lighting a fire would bring enemies, but it didn't. Because I didn't light a fire, it brought a hippo hog, which I then had to fight, which had a skill of 9, and it pretty much barfed in my face, and which reduced my skill by 3, so I had a skill of 6, and it destroyed me. I hit it once, and it killed me the first time I did it.
What did you do the second time?
This time I didn't go to that silver lane thing. I went to Armory Lane, and then there was this one shop. There were loads of shops that sold armor. Like every single one of them were closed but one. And so I went into the shop. There was this Cyclops, and there was a sword which I wanted to have, but he wouldn't let me have it because it was already purchased and he was waiting for the person to come and get it. So I had the option to either buy another sword called a Demon Dagger, leave the shop, or fight the Cyclops for the sword. Because I really wanted the sword, I fought him for the sword. So as I pulled my sword out, he roared right in my face, grabbed me by the throat. I tried to escape but I couldn't, and I fell asleep and I didn't wake up. Attempt number 3. This time I went to the lanes, then I think I went to the other lane, the 3rd lane this time. Soon I met this person, and we're trying to find this Yastromo tower, and we come across a skull cave which is shaped like a orc head. So we walk in, we have a look at it, there's some skeletons around with loads of loot and everything. So, and there were options to eat the cheese and apple. I didn't do that. And then there was this helmet which I put on, and it put my luck up on my 3rd attempt by 1. Didn't really need it because my luck was already at max. Then I drank this purple liquid that boosted everything up by 1. My stamina needed to go up, thankfully, so that helped. And we left, and soon I had to fight a giant centipede, which I had my skill of 9 against its skill of 8. And its stamina was 7, whilst mine was 16. I beat him up quite a lot, and he was at 1, and then he started proper getting me down, and then we became neck and neck with it. So it was, we both had 1 stamina left. So I rolled for me, and I got like, I think 12. And then I rolled for the giant centipede, and it got like 14 or 15, and I just died, and I went mad because I did just get killed by a giant centipede. And I had my potion of strength, and I didn't think to use it. I would like to play this again to try and get further than I did last time. I think I would play more of these types of fantasy games because they're very good, and it's like you're really the character itself. You're picturing everything in front of you and you're in the actual world. The other types of books I like to read are like Unfortunate Events, and I once read the Harry Potter books. I think it's better than those because it merges games and reading together as one, which makes it really incredible. I think some of my friends would like to play this game, yeah? Port of Peril, comparing to all the other games, it is good. It ties neck and neck with the computer games too, and I think it is just really, really good. I summarise this book as being one of the greatest books I've actually ever read. I think this is just a great way to bring it back, because these books haven't been around for years, and it's been a great introduction for me because it's the first time I've read a fighting fantasy book. For my first time reading one, I think it's just lit up my mind and made it even more greater than I could have imagined, because I thought I wouldn't like this. I would actually rate this as a 5 out of 5.
So there you have it. 2 thumbs up from the 50-Foot Nerds jury. The Port of Peril successfully combines the nostalgia element for those of us of a certain age with an exciting adventure to encourage the new heroes of the 21st century, and with more new novels to come, long may it continue. Silly question, have you read Port of Peril yet?
Yes.
Dave has. I haven't got around to it yet, but
it's great to revisit all of those locations. I've seen it described somewhere as a kind of greatest hits compilation, and it kind of is. You know, you get to revisit the Forest of Doom, you get to spend some time in Port Blacksand, you meet an old villain along the way, you meet a friendly wizard along the way as well. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. They were writing, as much as there is a new audience, and they were obviously presenting it for the new audience. There's a lot there for the fans.
It's not wildly different approach from what we're trying to do, is it? Really?
Absolutely. It's about there's an audience that I think wants a certain kind of thing, and it provides to it. There will be time in the future for great new ones. I think Charlie Hickson, writing the new
Charlie Hickson, of all people to be writing a fighting fantasy game book, Charlie bloody Hickson. That's just that's mind blowing.
And he was at the convention. I had no idea he was at the convention. Got home, looked at the photos, and there he is. And I'm thinking I could have gone up and shaken his hand and said, I love the Fast Show, but no, I didn't know he was there. No one told me he was there. What was going on?
I sort of saw him, but I didn't think it was him for some reason.
To be fair,
this is it. You don't recognise somebody out of context.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. Yes. I was big and beardy at the time, so
I read it last week. I enjoyed it. I was doing quite well. My stats weren't bad. I'd managed to get a decent skill 10, stamina 17, so I wasn't going to die in most of the low level combat that I'd got into. And then I fumbled a skill roll and had my head crushed by a falling boulder. I immediately tweeted. I immediately tweeted this, and Ian Livingstone himself did actually commiserate. So there we go.
Nice to know who's listening.
Actually, talking about really difficult mazes in Port of Peril, he's kept that tradition going slightly. There's the wonderful encounter somewhere in I think it's the Skull Mountains. I probably got that wrong. Where if you take a single wrong turn, you get crushed to death by a boulder as well. I died there more than once because I didn't write down at the time which way you were supposed to turn. So there you go.
We've just been talking about Port of Peril, and I mentioned the governor, Ian Livingstone. So is he very sort of hands-off, or has he been involved a lot?
They're obviously involved from the word go, and they have to look at everything we do and make sure that it's consistent with the fighting fantasy brand and the rest of it. But actually, they've been fantastic. I mean, it's probably not much of a secret that we got the license quite late on. There were some discussions going on, and then we wanted to make this thing in time to launch for the convention. So we had a bit of a tight schedule, and so we were pinging things to them to basically just listen or see and sign off. And they were getting back to us really quickly, and they're really supportive, and have been really supportive since they've actually heard it, and very complimentary about what we're doing. So they've both been very... I didn't get a chance to meet Ian at the convention, met Steve, and he came over and spoke to us, and they're really nice blokes, and they're really behind what we're doing, I think. So they're apart from your photobombing, it was which is a
by hands
strange
and tail.
Sorry?
I said, thereby hangs a tale.
Well, there is a photograph. I believe one of the fans got a selfie with Mr. Jackson, and this was. I think Dave found it on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
And
I'll send it to you.
Slap bang between the two of them. There's John looking extremely puzzled, staring right down the camera. He's a cracking photo, Bob. Where did you find that picture, Dave?
Yeah,
there's a couple of really wonderful fighting fantasy Facebook groups, which are very very friendly communities and well worth joining. And one of the guests posted it there, and there was many people kind of commenting on John's wonderful guest appearance in the photo, with lots of complimentary opinions about it. I did have to fess up.
Did you put them out of their misery as to who it was?
I did tell them. So, if anything, I like to think that's an even better selfie now, because you're in it as well as a post producer of the audio. So,
yeah, so it's a sort of inadvertent bit of advertising for the drama.
I should have been holding up the banner, shouldn't I, in the background?
Get it here. No, that could have come out badly. It's a cracking. We have to send the photograph through, Paul. That is a cracking shot. It is good.
It definitely seems to be the right time to be doing something like this. Obviously, with the relaunch just generally of the brand, the new book, and the reprints that Scholastic are doing now that they've taken over. Was Scholastic there already by the time you were involved, or is it something you've been thinking about just generally and then...
Well, we as fans discussed, because we were going to start this audio drama company, and we discussed titles that we could do, and because we were fighting fantasy fans, that came up. The actual 35th anniversary, we didn't clock that it was that, and we didn't realise the Scholastic relaunch was coming in until after we'd discussed it as a potential audio drama. Most people probably seen the cover by now. The actual Scholastic cover that we used, that was suggested to us by the fighting fantasy team and their lawyers and all the rest of it, and said, well, why don't you do that? And we thought that would be a good idea to tie it all together. So, again, Scholastic been very cooperative, but again, let us do our thing. We've been given a lot of freedom in a sense to just go off and do this, and so they came on board, but only insofar as use this is what you need to do, and there it is, slap bang on the front.
And don't fuck it up.
Yeah, which it's not really ours to comment on whether it's been fucked up or not. But I think it works well.
People would let us know.
People would tell us. We've got Evelyn Hu as well, who does all of our artwork inside the covers, and we've got an alternative cover that some people listening to this may have already seen and bought. So that the artwork is partly ours and partly Scholastic's, and so it's design-wise, it's come together quite nicely to reach sort of new and old, and it's worked out quite well, really.
As well as a package,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, it complements the existing new version of the brand, which obviously is what they're after and you're after.
Yeah.
It all feels like the same world, which is what you need.
Well,
obviously.
The degree of pomposity as well, I could say this, which is the front cover is Scholastic's Warlock of Firetop Mountain. The back cover of the CD is, very much the original. What colour of green would you call that?
I call it lime green.
Lime green covers of the original release.
Or to be fair, puffin green.
Puffin green. Those green puffins that we see.
The green spines of Scorpion Swamp onwards.
Yes. I mean, it could have been brown, I suppose, to make it...
Well, it's one of those little discussions you have during the production process. Is we obviously made the audio drama without thinking about things like CD artwork and things like that. And we get there and you go, what colour do you want to make the back? There's only one colour for a fighting fantasy slave.
Yeah.
And so,
puffin green.
Decision made. It was all done in the space of about 2 emails. And that's how some production decisions get made. So
so we've got the back cover is the original sort of look, and then the front cover of the CD is the new look. So hopefully we're trying to
merge the two.
Merge the two in
the worlds.
Bring the worlds together. And I quite like it. So hopefully other people do. So it's good. We're reaching back and forward, whatever that means. I don't even know what that means.
That means something else.
It does. It does. Yeah. I've seen that film.
You've alluded to future plans already, because obviously when you get to the point where you say yes, we can go ahead and do more, you need to be organised and ready to pull that trigger, as it were.
Yes.
You've mentioned a potential box set. I mean, are you at the point where you can or want to start saying what you would like to do next, or is that something you're going to keep quiet for a bit longer?
I don't think we're quite at the point. There are titles that have come to the top of the pile. I don't think we're quite there yet. Until we know that we're going to actually make the thing, I think, once we know we're going to do the box set, then there are I don't think the titles would be a surprise to anyone. I don't think we're going to suddenly say, "Well, we're going to do." I don't know. I'm trying to think. We're going to suddenly drop in Robot Commando. It's not going to be Robot Commando.
I was going to say Creature of Havoc.
Yeah,
That would be an interesting one.
That would be a very interesting one to adapt.
That would be a tough one to do as an audio.
Yeah, and generally we're thinking in the first sort of 10 to 20 releases as being the kind of titles we want to adapt, and we've had a conversation, but...
Are you going to stick to the world of Titan, though, or are any of the books and genres fair game?
I think they are fair game, but we had at the convention, I did a little straw poll in our presentation, and one of the ones we were talking about before was House of Hell. We thought we'd like to do House of Hell, but when I suggested that to the crowd, it was kind of lukewarm reception. So I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn here, that we would probably try and put them all in Titan all the time. They're mostly there anyway.
It wasn't our original starting position, to be fair, but there is the genuine love the fans have is for the world of Titan. That is the more developed side of the story. So yeah.
If you stick to that, you've got a story up.
Yeah, you've got a story up, of course.
So I think we're kind of probably leaning towards the staying Titan side.
I think we are, Titan side. I like that. That's the story arc name, Titan side. It makes sense, because, potentially characters we use in this or other dramas could, come through, and we can create a sort of slightly bigger story arc for everyone to enjoy. So I think
I am a little bit gutted because I did want to do House of Hell, but not ruling it out, because in many ways it's about adapting the titles that people know and love, and if we find the fan love there, we'll do it. But I think for now it's Titan.
Yeah, it's going to be Titan. So I think you could probably narrow it down in your head to say it's going to be Titan stories, and it's probably going to be in the first 10 or 20 Fighting Fantasy releases, and that's broadly where they're going to come from. Does that help?
You were saying before that when you were talking about starting the company, Fighting Fantasy is just one of the things you were talking about doing. So what else is there that you're either working on now or are going to be working on that the listeners may be interested in?
Well, that's a very big question, because obviously Warlock Heroes Quest is our first title released as a fledgling audio company. Again, it's going to sound like I'm fudging the question again, but there are other things being talked about, but some of them might involve rights, some of them might involve licensing, some of them might involve research. So if we came on and said, well, we're definitely going to do this thing, then it might never happen. There are other titles, there are other ranges, there are potentials that we've all chatted about, but I don't think we can really go much further than that.
Well, it's about getting the rights sometimes to do them, because I think the things that people are interested in and want to see developed are usually owned by somebody, and it's about whether people are prepared to negotiate and give you the opportunity to play in that world and bring that world to life. There's so many we'd like to do, but getting to talk to the right people and getting them to support us in doing that that's a very different world. If anybody out there has, any rights they want to give us for free, then please do get in contact.
I don't think I'm breaking any kind of. I think I'm breaking any science in this. Originally, way back, myself and Dave had a chat, and Dave suggested, why don't we do some H.G. Wells adaptations? They'll be fantastic. We'll do H.G. Wells, and we went into that and we thought about that, and then just at the point whereby we thought, right, we're going to do this, that's when Big Finish announced their H.G. Wells adaptation. So so we almost did that, but they beat us to it.
Everybody and his uncle is basically doing the War of the Worlds, but not calling it that at the moment.
Yeah.
It's anything that is
something in the water.
Well, anything that's copyright free is kind of outside of those licensing laws. Is being done to death. There will be
Sherlock Holmes,
Tarzan. Wizard of Oz, you'll see a movie every 2 or 3 years because these licenses are free. Anybody can do them. But it means that market's already saturated. So you have to find new ground. You have to find something that people want and you can get access to. So it is difficult to find those worlds and get people on board.
I mean, the benefit of getting something with a license like Fighting Fantasy, it has a fan base. It has something you can pitch it to. You can go to conventions, you can go to events, you can meet people, and hopefully you kind of know where you want to take that line. I mean, other things possibly slightly more vague, but as Dave says, they might be free to use because they're out of copyright. So, I think we're probably very early on to start talking about other ranges, though I can say we will definitely be looking at other things, and there are tentative suggestions of what we might do.
Plug time. For those of our listeners who haven't stumbled upon the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the Hero's Quest online, where can they find you? How can they go about buying the CD or the download? John,
this is John's moment.
Well, we have a website, fightingfantasyaudiodramas.com, and you can buy it on there. Very easy to do.
There's a Facebook page, which is, I believe, probably Facebook Fighting Fantasy Audio Dramas. Fighting Fantasy Audio, yeah. You can probably find us anywhere, but they're the two main places that you can find us and find out information about what we're doing. We'll be at conventions. We'll be at Dragon Meet on, is it the 2nd of December? Yeah, okay. 2nd of December we'll be at the Dragon Meet convention in Hammersmith, I believe it is. So we'll be there. You can come and talk to us if you're going to that and meet us there.
But you don't want to wait that long. It's best to pick up a copy online now.
It's best to pick up at least 20 copies each. No. So...
Well, it's limited edition, so the sooner you get a physical copy, the better chance you have of actually owning it.
Well, absolutely. That is very true. I don't know if we're going to have a reprint of any more. So, yeah, once these have gone, it may well be that I'm not just saying that, just so people go and buy one. I mean, it might be that's all there is. So... they're still available now from all good...
highly specialised
website that John's made. Like I said, that when they're gone, they might well be gone. So if you do want a copy, then get yourself out there and buy one before they've all disappeared out of the big boxes we have of them.
Just give you guys one last, the last word, as it were. Anything you'd like to say to the fans that you've got already from the last 2 weeks?
Well, I'd say, I put this on our Facebook page as well, but it's worth reiterating that, I'm very grateful to the people that have been enthusiastic about the project, the people who came to us at the convention, who have bought a copy, have taken the time to tell us that they really like it, who were very enthusiastic about wanting us to do some more, and are supporting the range. And then, that isn't just lip service, that is something that because when you're going to a fan market, you want the fans to be involved, both in terms of how they like the product and also them supporting it with their wallets, which is fantastic. So that's really
really big thank you to all of them.
Absolutely,
they have been absolutely great.
Yeah, they have been, and they're really good, because I'd never been to a Fighting Fantasy convention before, and I think I speak for all of us by saying, they're a really good bunch of people. They're really into their subject, and they really know it, and they care. And like I said, enthusiastic about what we're trying to do. So, it is a big thank you to all of them.
Well, chaps, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you for, what's getting on for like 50 minutes or so. And I really appreciate you giving your time.
That's right.
And thank you ever so much.
No, thank you, Paul.
And that's it for this special Fighting Fantasy episode of Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds. I'd like to thank Richard, David and John for giving their time to discuss the Hero's Quest, which can be bought online at www.fightingfantasyaudiodramas.com. It's $8.99 for the digital download and $10.99 plus P&P for the limited edition CD, and whether you're a fan of audio drama or a fighting fantasy player from way back, it's well worth a punt. Thank you also to Joshua, also known as @TARDISGlitch on YouTube and Twitter, for contributing his opinions of the new Fighting Fantasy gamebook. The Port of Peril by Ian Livingston is on sale now from all good online and offline book retailers. The cover price is $6.99. It's published by Scholastic, and you can also find reprints of The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, Citadel of Chaos, The Forest of Doom, City of Thieves, and House of Hell in the same places. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed this episode, then turn to paragraph 40 and listen to our entire back catalogue on iTunes or through feed.50footnerds.co.uk. To find us on Twitter, at 50footnerds. Turn to paragraph 3. Mike's Twitter handle is at Mike G. Bell. Andy is at Vaults of Extoth, and as always, I am at Auton Scouser. Turn to paragraph 331 for Facebook, which is facebook.com/attack of the 50foot nerds, and to email us anything except spam, turn to paragraph 95 for 50footnerds@gmail.com. All that remains to say is turn to paragraph 400 and celebrate. Your adventure ends here.
I will be king, and you shall be my queen. For nothing will ever drive them away, but we could beat them forever and ever. Yes, we could be heroes. Just for one day, and you are insane, and I am the same, 'cause we're lovers, and that is the truth. Yes, we're lovers, and we are the proof. No, nothing will keep us together. We can stop time forever and ever. Yes, we can be heroes. What do you say?
If you've enjoyed the nerddom in your ears, then please follow us on Twitter at 50footnerds, or email us anything except spam at 50footnerds at gmail.com.